Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up guys, Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review. And for this review, Duncan Kyle and myself have been checking out the new album from UK metallic hardcore band Cruelty. The band's new album, There Is No God Where I Am, will be released on April 30th via Church Road Records. So, these guys have been active since around 2017 and have released 2 EPs to date. The band have also been working hard live, racking up shows with Renounced, Higher Power and Big Cheese. The band also embarked on a UK tour with Employed to Serve and Palm Reader right before the pandemic hit in 2020. This album was recorded in summer 2020 by Ian Bolt at Stuck on a Name Studios in Nottingham, mixed by Taylor Young, who is obviously Twitching Tongues guitarist, vocalist and former Nails drummer, at the Pit recording studio, and then it was mastered by Brad Boatwright at Audio Siege.
For God's sake, Jesus, the names just come like producers had the best 2020 ever.
Yeah,
like, this is paying for the second house. This is the nest egg. My kids are going to college. Like honestly, the names that keep coming up, it's just like it's nuts.
Every week we talk about Brad Boatwright. Yeah. Every week. These guys were completely new to me, but Church Road Records have a lot of cool bands on the roster, bands that we've spoken about in the past, Svalbard, Palm Reader, Wowod, who mentioned on the podcast. So I was keen to hear Cruelty to see how they compared to the other bands on the label. And on first listen to this, it kind of made me a little nostalgic actually. Which was strange because they're a UK band. I wasn't really expecting it, but I started thinking about that kind of 90s, early 2000 bands. You know, from that kind of, remember the kind of Equal Vision or Ferret days. You know, that kind of era of bands. There's definitely a bit of like Converge on this, Zao, Botch as well in their sound. It's a good mix of kind of chaotic hardcore and punk. It's one of those albums that there's not much to kind of hold on to. It's fairly ferocious from beginning to end. And I wasn't quite sure where the album was going to go next, but it's quite a hell of a ride, to be honest. Quite unpredictable, but I quite enjoyed it. I really kind of appreciate an album that has more layers to it than meets the eye. And I felt that Cruelty definitely had that for me. It's quite subtle at times, but there's a kind of buried kind of underlying melody on this album that I really dug, and you can hear it pretty much from the get-go on this, as like chaotic and visceral as the first main track is, A Lie That Makes Life Bearable. The guitars occasionally detour into kind of more melodic territory. Sometimes it's the odd kind of jarring chord, but there's also points where they drop the distortion altogether and create these kind of, I suppose it kind of reminds me of Poison the Well a little bit, which just kind of lets you catch your breath before they let loose again. There's also a little hint of the Cro-Mags on some of the melodic lead work as well, especially on tracks like Barnland and Bloom. But like, as much as I loved that kind of underlying melody and stuff, I also really liked their kind of savage side. Tracks like Spiritual War, and There Is No God Where I Am, title track, had a very, I was hearing a kind of early Every Time I Die as well, but I had a kind of like mixed with something like I kind of Remember and Never or something like that, and that again, it kind of just took me back to like the early 2000s, like 2002 to 2003. Just those kind of chord choices, the lead work, a lot of the kind of dissonant riffs, just it never sounded better, to be honest. It's the type of stuff that I imagine would be completely pummeling to see live. I think this whole album is just being like begged to play in a small sweaty room somewhere. Not that I don't think they can't play big venues, but I think this sound would be much better suited to a kind of small room where
it's an intimate sound, isn't it?
Yeah, it would really hit you like a ton of bricks, I think. Especially tracks like To the Ground, which probably it's probably one of the more kind of straight-laced songs, a bit more kind of down the middle with the rhythms and the timings and stuff. But it's a bit more head-bangable, I suppose, which it kind of really kicks in about the kind of minute and a half, minute 40 kind of mark on the track. They kind of just let that kind of groove go, and it's quite nice and simple, but it has a big impact as well. I really enjoyed the production on this. I think it could easily sit up there with a lot of the kind of modern, chaotic hardcore albums, but it also has a bit of an old school feel to it as well, that kind of early 2000s vibe, which I absolutely love. I really noticed it on tracks like If There's a God, He Does Not Believe in Me, or the track called Cut, which are probably two of the more melodic tracks. But when they do allow that melodic side to come out, it really kind of opens up their sound. And I like the fact that they haven't overproduced it either. It's not like time aligned, or it doesn't sound like super in sync. They've left it with quite a natural feel, which I think is how hardcore should be, to be honest. But I think Ian and Taylor and Brad have done a great job with the sound on this album. I really enjoyed it. But I'm aware that this particular style is right up my street. It's very chaotic. There's a lot going on. And if you're new to this style of hardcore, then you may not get the kind of nostalgia that I got from it. But I definitely recommend it. Definitely give it a go if you like any of the bands that I've mentioned so far. Duncan, what did you make of the new album from Cruelty?
Well, Dave. Eh? Well. First things first, picked where this band was from.
You did.
Without reading any of the blurb.
Yes.
Don't know if you know that, guys. That means I'm now kind of a big deal around here. I genuinely didn't know what to expect from Cruelty at all. Love the name of the band. I think Cruelty's it's a great name, and it really suits the band. This is a punishing album. It's a really, really punishing album, which feels like Marooned in Misery. Or Marinated in Morose. It's kind of there ain't much light on this album, right? Nothing.
Not really.
Kind of sunny here, like it really just drags you down and kind of grounds you at the level of the singer. Who I really like the singer here. He's got at times a very unpleasant tone. Which I think works, and when it comes in specifically when the guitars are doing, little hints of melody, which is never happy melody, it's just like brightening up by actually hitting less discordant stuff. It's when it really the kind of almost the dissonance between the two, the juxtaposition of what you're getting is horribly unsettling, and it works so well, and it's a technique they could easily do in every single track if they wanted, and they don't. Which I love about it, because it's like a weapon in their arsenal that they'll only deploy when the song merits it. The album itself is a bit of a head scratcher, to be honest with you. It is clear when tracks finish and when new tracks start, but if you were to take your eye off the ball and you were to come to the next one, you wouldn't be mistaken for thinking, is this just one longer track? Because the tracks themselves don't follow any particular narrative formula. They change around quite a bit, so like if you did miss that gap in between, you could genuinely feel like, well, this is a 8-minute song, and what I love about this is they experiment with that as well, so you get some shorter tracks, and then you do get the longer tracks. The closing track, which is the title track, is up over 7 minutes in length, which and they keep my attention for the full time, and I think that was the big saving grace for me on this album, is like I was engaged all the way through it on the 2 listens that I did today, because this is an album that I didn't realise we were reviewing, and then back to back shotgunned it. It's a whole lot of misery, and that's what I get from not reading my emails. I listened to this basically twice. This was the last 10 minutes before we hit record was me finishing my second listen on this one, so it's fresh in my mind. And while you're in the production, I love the production on this. I think the production is ugly. It's uncompromising, and it has that ferret feel. I think you're right on the money with that. There were a whole swath of bands from the 2001 to 2005 era that I was obsessed with, that all kind of had that similar vibe, that similar tone. Even though they were all doing different styles of music, they all had that kind of commonality, and they definitely have that. And once again, this links into, and people are going to hear it all over the place this month with the videos we drop, Duncan's theory of the 20 years. I think we're going to get a lot of this year. I think we're just going to get a lot of bands that are just like, listen, this is what we grew up listening to. So, deal. And I'm cool with that. I'm 100% cool with that because I was there listening to that music too. Yeah, I mean, musically it's uncompromising. I love the guitar tone. It's unpleasant and it's not overproduced, but it does leave room for those kind of those more, you know, darkened melody parts that come through. The drums have a really ugly production on them as well. I actually thought that might be something that put you off, but I'm glad that it didn't because I thought we would be at odds here. I really like the drum sound on this one. Like the bass drum at times doesn't sound necessarily all that tight, but there's something about it that just feels a bit more impactful, so I really enjoyed that. I think they're very clever songwriters. Like there are parts in here that don't follow a structure that you would imagine working, or they go off in a place where I'm like, that's risky. That actually does work. Well done. You know, like when the doubt kicks in on the first playthrough of the riff, but by the second one you're like, no, actually that completely fits. So that's really well done. Yeah, I think this is great. I like Spiritual War is a great shout out for a track. I think it really sets the tone for the album. It's a real pick me up after A Lie That Makes Life Bearable, which is what I use to describe my sex life. A lie that makes life bearable. So yeah, but yeah, even Barnland in Bloom, which is a great title for a song, just the way it rolls off it's fucking bleak, man. It's really, really, really bleak, and I get behind it. I think they are a surprising band. For sure, because had the vocals not had that English sound about them, the vocalist does sound very English. Had it not had that, I think you're right, I probably would have come in here this week being like that. So another American band, Dave. And you'd be like, no. Because there's a lot of their sound that owes to particular kind of metallic, kind of hardcore metal bands from America, and it's steeped in their sound. But they put their own spin on it, and I like it. Also, I will say, I could make out the lyrics from the vocalist here, even though he goes a bit wild at times. Yeah, he's singing some dark shit, man. This dude is not happy, and I want to sit him down and buy him a bag of chips, and see if I can turn them round. No, this is great. It's like, once again, another highlight of great British work that's coming out just now. A band that are ticking off another little bit. I can't think of many bands in the UK just now that sound like Cruelty, and that's kind of cool. Yeah. So I dug it.
Nice one. And Kyle, he was sitting there quietly with his arms folded there. I wasn't sure what he was thinking.
Got to do it again. The Dream Killer.
Well, as you know, hardcore is very hit and miss with me. This one's a hit.
Yay! Yay!
But that's because they don't really sound all that hardcore.
It's there, but it's not there.
Yeah, it's there, but there's I want to say there's a little bit of Sixth in this. Little bit. There is. Like with the wild, I heard the tones, he sounds a lot like Mikey from Sixth. Bit of the guitar work as well as I don't know if it's intentional or if they listen to them, but it sounded a lot like it reminded me right away from the first track. I was like, okay, I can get behind that. But if they were hardcore, and that's what the blurb said, then this is they've really crafted something that's taken what hardcore would be or should be and just really evolved it beyond that, and it's really, really good. And I love the mix. Can we talk about that guitar tone?
Yes,
yes, we can.
Holy fuck, that was a really good guitar tone. I'm like, that is not a 5150 through a goddamn V30 cab, is it? No, that is something special. And if it is, I don't know what they've done, because it sounds really good and I love it. And I'm going to be listening to this a lot to try and figure out what the hell they did to get that guitar tone. It was so good. I like that the songs were not conventional as well.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, I mean, some of them were and some of them weren't, but it was like, it flipped you and it threw you for a switch every now and then. And it was just like, yeah, okay, cool, that's really good. And the album name is amazing. I really love that album name. That's one of the best album names I've heard all year to this point. It's so good. It's right up there with the band name Pupil Slicer, you know?
That's what I mean. Like, well, there's a thing. You wouldn't link those two bands together, but I would totally go and see a gig. They would marry it really well live together.
Yeah, they would.
Cruelty and Pupil Slicer would work because your head would be fucked by the end of the night. I mean,
your whole body would be dead.
It's just the contrasting tones, but there's an ugliness to both of those bands that just kind of, there's a grim sound coming out of the UK just now, which is very much anti the Architects, and I'm 100% behind it. More of that, please. More of that, please. We don't need fucking #1 albums. Just give us more of this.
Yeah.
Shots fired. Brat, brat.
Shots fired from real drums, which you can find on this album. Which is fucking incredible because you can hear the imperfections and it's just it works so well.
It does,
like that level of honesty in a recording, it just makes it that much more impactful, and it just makes it like, okay, we're a pissed off band. When you're angry and pissed off, you're gonna make mistakes. We've recorded those mistakes and we've given them to you, saying fuck you and fuck everything else we've said to fuck on this album. So
yeah, it almost feels live to an extent.
It does. I would be surprised if it wasn't recorded live. It probably wasn't, but I mean, I think they could pull it off. If there's any band recently that could pull off live recording, it's these guys.
We recently watched we did a reaction to Beggar live. See if Cruelty did one, I would totally fucking watch that, man. It'd be intense. It'd be intense and sweaty.
100%, yeah. Ooh. Okay, gentlemen. Ratings for the new album from Cruelty, There Is No God Where I Am. I will kick us off. As I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this. Very nostalgic for me. I loved the kind of old school meets new school kind of production. And I think Kyle's right. There's not a lot of UK bands sound like this, and I think they sit perfectly on Church Road Records along with that roster. There's a lot of bands I'd love to see Cruelty on a tour with in the UK. I would give this a 4 out of 5. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Duncan, what are you thinking?
I feel we're going to be doing this a lot tonight. I give this a 4 out of 5, Dave.
Oh, nice. Twinsies. And Kyle?
Do I even need to answer? Can I just say I'm a triplet?
Oh, yes.
There we go.
Like the Lost movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito, and Eddie Murphy that we never got.
I would pay large amounts of money to watch that.
That was a real script that was being shopped around. Triplets.
True.
That would have been so good. I wouldn't want to watch them do it now, but back then, yeah.
I, on the other hand, would want to watch it now because I like Flash TV. So.
Okay. New Cruelty album, There Is No God Where I Am, drops on the 30th of April on Church Road Records. If you want to check out the band, it's facebook.com/CrueltyHC. I'll put a link in the description below to their Facebook and to their Bandcamp and to the pre-order for the album. Let us know what you think if you've heard any of the singles. And once the album drops, let us know your thoughts. Happy to hear them. And thanks for checking out the review. Much appreciated. We will be back with a new review very soon. But until then, take care. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.